Hi, this is Rob Sheen from the Source Conference, and I'm here with Harry Sverdlove, who is the CTO of Edgewise Networks. And he's going to be doing a talk at Source Austin on December 5th and 6th. And the title of the talk is From Zero to Hero, Zero Trust Networking Distilled. So for those that are uninitiated in Zero Trust Networking, Harry, could you give us kind of the 30-second elevator pitch on what Zero Trust Networking is?
Sure. It actually was a term started by Forrester 10 years ago. So we're at the 10-year anniversary of Zero Trust Networking, but only recently has it caught on. And basically, if you think about the way we've done networking for 30 years, it's always been a matter of trust but verify. So now Zero Trust is a way of looking at things and saying perimeters, addresses, the types of things that we used to make those decisions on no longer make sense. And we should move to a model where we never trust but always verify. So at its essence, it's about doing network security and doing security in general with a mantra that it doesn't matter whether you're inside a perimeter, at your office, at a coffee shop, outside a perimeter, in the cloud, you're always assumed to be untrustworthy until you're verified. And to do that kind of verification on things that are not based off of location or address, the types of things that traditional network security has historically been based off of.
So what kinds of things can you verify on instead then?
So essentially, at its essence, zero trust networking is about verifying identity, true identity. So if you think about it from sort of two ways of looking at that, if you're talking about users, so you're looking at people, your employees or people who are using your services, it's about verifying their identity using multi-factor authentication, using other biometrics, other means to verify who is it that's making the request, as well as verifying the device that they're requesting from. So is it trustworthy? Has it been patched? Does it have a digital certificate on it? If you're talking about automated processes or things that are happening within the cloud or inside your data center, it's about verifying the identity of the applications, of the workloads that are actually doing the communication. What is it that's actually requesting access to your database? Think of it in this sense. It's basically multi-factor authentication for your workloads, the same way you might imagine doing that for users. And the catch is to do this always, not just to do this one time, when the system boots up or when you log in, but every time you make a request, it's continuously authorizing the identity of who is making that request and what are they requesting.
Interesting. So I used to work with a guy named Dan Gear, who you might know. And I remember sitting in a company meeting with Dan about 18 years ago, and he actually predicted that we would reach a point where we just couldn't trust anything on the network, had to assume it was bad. And it feels like I'm actually hearing that we've come full circle here and we're actually there now. Is that,
I
are
think
we,
that's absolutely right. We used to, once upon a time, we used to think, okay, we could build moats or we could build fortresses, and
mhm.
there'd be a zone of trust and then a zone of untrustworthiness. And we've definitely come to a point, both because of technology and just because of the threat landscape, where you have to assume your machine is compromised, your access is, everything is compromised, but most importantly, the network is basically compromised. And so if you're living in a world where instead of thinking, okay, I'm inside my house and I'm safe, you're always walking in that dangerous district, in that dangerous neighborhood. How would you deal with security that way? And we would do things differently. And that's basically where we're at today.
Right. I like that you're promoting this model because a lot of my customers still today, even now, still have a challenge with the insider threat. And they basically make assumptions about what's safe on the inside because, oh, we trust our people, we trust our networks, we trust all this stuff. And it's a wrong assumption on a lot of levels. And you're approaching it from the, you're probably compromised point of view. I tend to approach it from the, you know, if you build it as if there is a secure outer perimeter, when they do get in, you're kind of hosed because you've not designed around it. So it sounds like you're actually doing some things to actually fix it and actually design around it now.
Absolutely. And certainly I think we found that at this point they will get in. So
Right.
that idea of this assumption of breach, it's not just a platitude. It is true. They're going to get in. And when they do, if you've built your models that way, they now have free reign. They're going to
Yep.
get to your database. They're going to get to your keys to your kingdom. And instead, exactly as you pointed out, it also addresses that same problem that people worry about, which is it's not just malicious actors. It's sometimes insider threat or not even intentionally, it can be insiders that are doing
Mhm.
malicious activity or unauthorized activity.
Right. Um, so if you're starting from a kind of that traditional model where you have that quote unquote secure outer perimeter that we now know is not, um, How difficult is it for someone to transition or a company to transition from full trust internal to zero trust?
Yeah, I think, well, if you look back, why did we do it the other way? That with perimeters, one is, well, it may have made sense in a cleaner or safer world, if you will, but the other really has to do with that was the technology we had. We had firewalls. You basically plug them in, you create firewalls, and people come in or they come out. Basically, gates, the equivalent of gates. In terms of difficulty today, what's one of the things that's changed, aside from the fact that the landscape has changed, is the technology has really made it a lot easier. So to make this kind of shift, so that we have tools today that can automatically map out how applications, how users, how things communicate, so you actually have a true model of how are things communicating inside your network, not just a bunch of net flow and addresses that are floating around that range in the terabytes and petabytes and pretty much is unconsumable, but rather using technology to actually map out what are the flows. And once you have that mapped out, again, with technology, with automation, it really isn't difficult. The key is, like with any transition, any sort of change in security, don't try to do it all at once. Don't try to boil the ocean. Take smaller environments, a critical business application, or even a simple application that you know well, and build upon your success. Build a model where this application is secure no matter who's accessing it, no matter where they're accessing it. So there is no inside user, outside user. You're securing one model, and then you build upon that success to the rest of your company.
Great. So who should attend this talk, and what should they expect to get out of it?
So anybody certainly who's concerned about security, but most specifically, aside from security professionals, as well as network security and network administrators, people there's two sort of folks involved in this. There's your security professionals, your security analysts that are constantly on the lookout for bad, but at the end of the day, there's your network administrators, and they're the ones that are currently managing the highways. They're managing the perimeters. They're managing the fences, and so they should attend as well, because to understand what does this new model look like and how can I apply the principles of the model to what I'm doing. So I think both security as well as operational administrators should attend this to get a sense of, well, what are these new principles and how can I apply them to what I'm doing at my work.
Awesome. All right. Well, I look forward to seeing the talk and look forward to having you at the Austin conference. So again, Harry's going to be speaking at Source Austin on December 5th and 6th. If you are interested in continuing the conversation with Harry, then come on by to the conference.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
No problem. Talk soon.